in a virtual environment. Thank you for taking time out and being here today. I'm Emily Park, the marketing manager here at McGraw-Hill, Canada, and I'm so excited to be hosting this session today. So before we jump on to today's main topic, I have a few housekeeping items. First, today's 1-hour webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand a few days after this live session. As we have a very large group today, to ensure the best webinar experience, your lines are muted and the questions will be followed up separately after the webinar. Please ask questions via the chat window in the webinar. After today's webinar, you will receive the follow-up email with the webinar recording, Q&A answers, and the post-survey link. Your feedback and the suggestion will be very helpful for us to develop other webinar sessions that suit your interest. So now, I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Michel Shah. So next slide, please. So Michel is the Personal and Professional Development Professor at George Brown College. She is specialized in personal and professional development, bringing astute insight and pragmatic solutions to situations involving facilitation, needs assessment, coaching, and knowledge transfer. Michel enjoys storytelling and sharing her ideas with other instructors. She would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn for the further discussion. Her LinkedIn profile is on the slide, or you can simply search Michel Shah on LinkedIn. Okay, then over to you, Michel.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you very much, Emily, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to share with you today. I hope you like the seats that I've reserved for you. I've reserved the best seats in the house. In this presentation, I'll introduce the concept of the virtual education mix. It's an idea I adapted from the business concept of a marketing mix. What you will learn from this presentation depends on where you are in your learning and teaching journey. But the objective of this presentation is to share what we know as a community so we can learn together and support each other as we transition to a fully virtual environment. Please use the chat window throughout the presentation, not only to ask questions, but also to share ideas. After the presentation, the plan is to consolidate your ideas and share the responses so that we can all learn from each other. In marketing, it's all about the customer. And the 4 Ps refer to the product, promotion, price, and place. In education, it's all about the learner. The 4 Ps in focus are partnership, purpose, process, and product. The virtual education mix is a learner-centered approach to learning online. In this presentation, we're dividing it into 4 sections addressing each of the 4 Ps and highlighting key skills required to execute in each area. Let's begin with partnership. For partnership, it's really about communication, leadership, networking, and collaboration. These are the key skills for us to be able to establish and maintain effective partnerships. Let's talk about communication. We need to communicate all of these roles in order to have a clearly defined partnership where every member of the partnership understands their role. Who we are, our role, who our learners are, the role of the learners, who our partners are, and how we all work together. Now let's begin with you. You in the pro role, the faculty, the leader. Who are you? Your students want to know how your experiences have shaped the person they now look up to for leadership in their learning, especially in these uncertain times. The part of your story you choose to share should have a lesson that you want to distill, a tone you want to set, perhaps a tone for openness, for empathy, or for any other value, a theme you want to run through your course. Not just a piece of a story randomly pulled out of the hat last minute, but something carefully constructed to help produce the desired effect. I usually share the story of how I got a boy's name, Michel. And I talk to them about the fact that my mother had a different name in mind for me, Michel. I was born in Jamaica, and she sent my aunt to the post office to register me. By the time my aunt got to the post office, she forgot the two last letters of my name. And so this is what ended up on my birth certificate. Except my mother didn't look at it because she had the name in mind, and she proceeded to register me in school as Michel with the LLE. And so I didn't know that this was my name until 11 when the government decided to verify our birth certificate for taking a national exam. And that's how I became Michel Shah. I normally promise them that I'll discuss how I got this last name at a later session. The tone of the conversation, the energy of the group will shift immediately in my class because everybody has a story about their name. It's very relatable. The chat box lights up, everybody gets busy. They want to respond to the story. I know you have stories of your name that you probably want to share. Right now, those stories are bubbling inside of you. It's a foundation for opening up, for beginning the conversations, and for designing the environment that I want in the classroom. When it comes to storytelling, which I strongly recommend for you in terms of sharing who you are with your learners, tell them what story you're about to tell them. Tell them the story, and then tell them why you told them the story. Bring yourself vulnerable to the table and invite them to join you in an authentic learning experience. That learning experience should be co-created with your learners. And this requires you, the leader, to be very agile in your course development and in your delivery, allowing some flexibility and allowing openness for collaboration. This means students can connect to the course content, and they can connect the course content to their personal outcomes. Many are digital natives, so working online is going to be great for them. Just making sure that we're using appropriate assessments to identify their needs as we design our learning experiences. When you transition into this online delivery model, you're also transitioning how you experience your own role, how your learners will experience your role. An essential element of our role becomes sort of providing leadership and direction and space for our partners and our learners to explore learning. And so it's important for you to clarify your role for your learners. Different faculty may define their roles very differently, but your learners need to understand how you are planning to work with them in this style and in this context. You may be the great architect, you may be the multitasker in chief, you may be a mentor, a facilitator, perhaps you're just going to be a referrer. Very important for them to understand what your role is. You want to design an environment where you're open to learning, open to collaborating, designing the learning that we do together. But being open in this environment should not be confused with being unprofessional, unorganized, unprepared, causing confusion and frustration. Being open about your own learning experiences and how you feel and experience it and how you seek support is distinct than being unprepared. We begin with our learners by giving them the opportunity to discuss what they think their role is and how they think they should be engaged in this process as co-creator, as contributor, and how they can cooperate with us based on their own strengths and their own skills. And so important for you to know that you're not an island, you're not doing this alone. And so learn to check in with the resources that are available for you. Check in with your team. And teach the learners as well to check in with each other. We're not in this alone, especially not in this time. No one can afford to do this alone. We're part of a system. And the partnership that we have in our institutions allows us to connect with our partners, network. Education is a system, and awareness of the players in the partnership to support holistic student engagement is critical for success. You've got to know your partners, know who you're collaborating with, develop your go-to team. This will help to strengthen the quality of the outcomes when we leverage these partnerships. For instance, your program coordinators, your student success team, a critical team that helps the skills development, time management, schedule management, organizational skills, learning about the mindset, learning about presentations, very, very important. And not all faculty have this skill set, but we have strong partners who have this skill set. We have partners in our counselors. These counselors, that's their area of expertise. During COVID, your students may experience some challenges, and this is an opportunity for you to refer off. Well, we have our career center. Our students value the services of career advisors, but they don't know we have them sometimes. It's our opportunity to triage our students through the maze of supports that we have within our institutions and allow them to get the very good benefits. We have a lot of industry partners, including McGraw-Hill, who comes together at times like this and says, let's arrange opportunities for us to learn together. And so it's really important. Years ago, I felt that being a good professor meant I really had to be good at everything that was on my course outline. I was teaching career development, and I used up a lot of my time on resumes and just going over all the skills with students, taking up several weeks just covering that one topic, until I began to partner with the Career Center and the career advisor that was designated for my program. And they provided quality, relevant information for the students specific to their area. And those experts were able to meet with students outside of class times. And so students got better quality resumes. I got back more time in class to cover things in the area that I am better at. And so these partnerships are essential for us, for our students, and for our partners. And I encourage you to really think carefully about the partnerships that we have. Because it matters why you teach, what you teach, how you teach, who you teach, and where you teach. And this is consistent with universal design for learning principles. And in a COVID climate, this shift is key. Learners used to go to the institution. Now we're taking the institution home to them. There are unlimited resources that we have online at your institution, at every institution, to support our digital development so that we have the skills to teach where they are right now, where we need to teach online. Some institutions have departments dedicated to helping faculty transition to the virtual classrooms. So like at George Brown College, where I am, we have a teaching and learning exchange, which does this. Other institutions provide this support through their program coordinators, such as the Schulich Executive Education Center. There are many other places. McGraw-Hill is trying to provide the support using experts within their bandwidth. Know where you are, know how much support you need, and use the supports that are available online through areas like LinkedIn courses, just Googling. There are a lot of resources, but it's not just the technology that matters. Our home environment is also affecting our partnerships, and it's affecting the ways in which our students can partner with us. So be mindful. Not all homes are created equally. Consider the environment your learners may live in. Not all environments are safe, and not all students can invite you into their homes at class time. There are multiple means of partnering with students, and this will be critical. When we take a look at the wide range of students we have, the diversity of our students, the diversity of their environments, we're going to need to be really conscious and cautious about how we enter their homes and what the expectations are when we enter their homes. Take 5 minutes on your eyes, give your eyes a 5-minute break. We're going to talk about purpose next. Purpose is the why. The why we do what we do, the why our students are in our classrooms. And Peter Drucker says there is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. And this is why it's important to begin with the why. Many skills are important here: empathy, goal setting, self-management, and the mindset. When we're thinking about purpose, it's really how we can link their purpose to the individual goals that they have, but more importantly, understanding that their purpose affects whether or not they think our course or our program is even relevant for them. And we want them to recognize the relevance of what we do for them. So this purpose is going to need to be aligned. So we really need to know their goals. And the research suggests that majority of students are in higher learning to prepare for employment. Most are just looking to either start, restart, or advance in their career. They're advancing their careers and their life goals. And for McLuhan, it's about all of us working together to learn a living. In the world that we're living today, things are changing so rapidly. Learning and earning are together. It's one word, it's the same thing. And that's what our students are here for. And it's really for us to be able to align that purpose, those goals, with whatever we are offering to them. I usually post a video on my LMS before I start up my class to introduce myself and share my goals, share my hopes, and my fears. And then I'd offer the option to introduce themselves by video using Flipgrid. My first assignment is usually goal setting, and this comes in early enough at the beginning of the first week so that I have a chance to delve into the content and have a sense of who they are in my class. Today, we have to link the relevance of those goals and our course to the COVID world that we're living. It's a connection that they have to make in their mind. They're in an uncertain environment, and a lot of the intended learning experiences have to be modified in order for them to join us in this. And so it's best practice to partner with your program when we're talking about goal setting. Because if you imagine a program that has, let's say, 10, 5, 6 courses, and every faculty asks them to do goal setting, it becomes redundant and ridiculous. And so it's very good practice to partner with your program team so that you know which class they're going to address goal setting in and who is going to address something else. And we can all just tap into that which is already done. So who are your learners? The literature highlights that higher ed has a new majority of students. This new majority may become even more apparent in a post-COVID world because COVID is going to impact some groups more than others. The new majority are typically older than high school age, married, they're a graduate of another program, more likely female, racialized, and likely to have dependents. And so that is important for consideration when you're thinking about who is behind the screen on your computer. And that's important to know because they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so getting to know your learners is going to be a very important part of your role. Today's learners want to know what they care about, where they come from, what are their personal stories. They had concerns before COVID. They have additional concerns now. Where are they going? What are their dreams? And how can you provide each individual the quality learning they expect based on those unique needs? And the stories are rapidly changing. And so what you know today, when you sit with them in the first class, what you know in that first class may very likely change in the second class or 6 weeks down the road. The stories are rapidly changing. And this is why it's so important that once they are clear on their goals, that you are working with your partners to provide them support with self-management strategies. These are very necessary to help them stay on track. COVID is something that bounced a lot of people off track, and there are little things that are happening in their lives that may edge them off track from time to time. Self-management strategies are going to be very, very important. If you use the skills of the experts within your institution, who provide workshops on goal setting, on schedule management, who provide tools such as the schedule semester at a glance calendar. They have the weekly time manager. Those resources are provided typically career services or student success services. Industry leaders can come in and speak to your students on things like mindset or other things. It's so important that we use the team to bring our students the best value. Every learner has their goal, and now that they have their goal, what we want them to have is a set of action steps that will help them to achieve that, right? So we want to partner effectively to support them. And then we want to think about the mindset. Success in reaching goals is determined by your mindset. The literature is clear on this. We need to help them to foster a culture in our course where they believe in their own ability to succeed, where they increase their confidence, their effort, and they understand the importance of effort to outcomes, and that they embrace the challenges and that they persist in the face of the setbacks and they learn from their mistakes. And we do the same because this is a COVID world, and many experiences, many of our students have been experiencing what has been dubbed sort of this COVID coaster, particularly with emotional challenges. And that's what makes the environment in which you're operating so very, very challenging. What's happening today changes tomorrow because of this roller coaster that some of the students are on. So refer them to appropriate supports, but be mindful, be vulnerable, be empathetic. Let them know that your classroom is a safe environment. It's really going to be important right now. So we've talked about making sure we partner. We've talked about making sure we have a purpose. And I want you to take a deep breath and take 5 for your eyes. And then we're going to talk about the process. Process is a systematic series of actions and activities which are designed to achieve a particular outcome. In our world, careful consideration and control over the process will improve the likelihood of achieving intended outcomes. If you lose control of the process, you lose the likelihood of achieving your outcomes. So the process has to be what the leader keeps their eye on. It's the only thing you can control, in fact. And so the skills that are in focus here are going to be your organizational skills, your critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. And I haven't mentioned on the slide systems thinking, but it's so important that we understand. I've been saying this all along. It's a system. We're part of a system. It's not just us. It's not just our course. It's not just our neighbor, our academic partner. We're part of a large system of stakeholders who are interested and invested in the learning outcomes that our students are here for. And so your class in this particular time may be the only connection, the only structure that your students have and need in this time. Your class may be very highly anticipated. It could even be entertainment at this time. It could also be feared. But you have the opportunity to visit your learners right where they are. The challenge is, how do we modify or recreate the content to fit the new context? And this requires a shift from habitual ways of doing things. Content is not contextualized. If not contextualized, has very limited value. We have to contextualize our content. So you have to become the critical thinker to take your own content and question your content. Challenge your own self and think about, how can you declutter your course content? What am I holding on to here just because I've always covered it? Just because it's there? Just because it's too much trouble to remove it now? Just because it would require me to change too many things if I changed this one thing? Challenge yourself to take the leap to cut the fat, to reset, to make it fresh. Shift to leveraging your full skill set, leveraging your partnerships, engaging your students in the learning process to co-create content that is relevant, contextualized appropriately, and meaningful. And for your learners, give them opportunities to individualize it. This is a wonderful opportunity in learning. It is challenging, but it could be something really, really spectacular. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think at this point, you must do the thing you think you cannot do, as Roosevelt said. Our challenge will be to keep it super simple because we know a lot of content. We have so much content we can cover. And we want to cover all of the content in one go. But whatever we do online, we have to keep it super simple. And it's really about keeping the main thing the main thing. And these are not cliches in this context. We have to keep the main thing the main thing. Some content we have in person may not translate as well online. So we have to go back to scratch when we think about our process to map out the entire learning experience, to step into your role as the architect. You know your essential building blocks within your course, make them clear to learners, and develop a complete crystal clear communication plan that is multiple ways and means of conveying this information. There's a course outline, your LMS, the assessments, add weekly announcements at a specific time that they know to expect it, provide feedback on your sessions, on their work, do group reflections. I normally do a weekly reflection for myself on the course and share it in the discussion group. And I realized that that was very highly anticipated. It talked about my contact with different students, some of the things I learned the most, some of the things I didn't realize weren't working, and some of the things I was surprised affected them that way. And I really shared that one weekly reflection, and I realized that students really, really gobbled that up. So think about ways that you can communicate what's happening. Part of the challenge with communication when everybody's in their own homes is that the processes to navigate the system have to take the steps, break them down a little bit more. It's almost like writing a program, go here to this LMS. If not, go here to this class group, then go over here and connect with your learning partner, or else email me or leave me a message on my voicemail. Otherwise, contact the program coordinator. You have to take them through the steps, because if they hit one button and they don't get what they're supposed to get, then they feel like that's the end of the process. So you've got to take them that's not the end. If that doesn't work, we have other ways for you to connect. We have other ways and means that you can reach us, because access is not equal. That's really important for us. As we think about keeping our process simple, the thing to remember is that the content is the king, the technology is the medium, and the engagement is everything. When we say content is king, we don't mean we need all of the content at once. What we mean is taking a look at what we need to offer and focus on the essentials. So looking at your course outcomes, how many do you really need? How many can you really achieve in this context? When you're looking at your concepts, only the core concepts, the ones that are deftly aligned with the outcomes you've selected. When you're looking at your content, only those that illuminate the core concepts. When you're thinking about your activities, only those that provide practice of the core concepts, illustrate crucial content, or prepare students for assessments. And the assessments, only those that demonstrate the course outcomes. Just really cleaning it off, cutting the fat off, and being precise, staying on the point of your arrow in this process is really going to be beneficial for your students and for you. It will leave time to dedicate to deep learning of the core concepts. Students will need to understand why they're studying this. It's essential practice everywhere. It's particularly critical in the learning environment. It's how each activity relates to this assessment, how each assessment is linked to the outcomes, how each outcome is linked to their personal goals, because that's why they're here. They're not here because we know what we know. They're here because they want some of what we know, the pieces that are relevant to get them where they want to go. And so, for instance, when you see us having the session online, we're trying to cut off the videos, cut off the audios, and just keep to the main things. And that's good practice. And that's what you're going to need to do, because technology is the medium, not the main thing. And so we can't operate the content without the technology now. So it's debatable whether it's the main thing, but the students are not here for technology. They're here for the content. And so do a tech check at the beginning. Learners have differential access to technology and Wi-Fi. Technology is the content for some students. It is the means for others. Both in skills and resources, students have differential access. So what we send out is not necessarily received because it's based on what they're receiving it on. It's their capacity to access what we're sending, whether it's personal or technological. It's really important that when you begin your course, you begin with housekeeping, conducting a survey to learn about the level of access to technology. So perhaps use confidential forms, not asking for this in public, but using a confidential form to capture those responses and to get a good sense of the overall look of your class. And then another question for you to ask yourself is, what is the purpose of the technology that I'm using? When it comes to tech, less is more. If you imagine each new technology you introduce as another door your students have to open, then it will help you to limit the number of virtual doors that your students have to encounter to access information. Think about what technology is essential to improving learning. You may need this technology to use on land, but it may not be as effective online. So think about what technology is more useful here than there. Introduce the technology you're going to use in your course to your students, let them know the rationale for each, and communicate that technology will be phased in, that clear instructions will be provided, demos and support will be provided. Some students don't need that, but it's going to be very comforting for students who fear the technology and it's a blocker to their own learning. Avoid nice to have technology and gadgets and gadgets. Focus and make sure there's a purpose to every technology that you select. Because we talk about different types of learners, different levels of access, centralizing a learning zone, your online classroom, is a very important thing. Students will have a lot of questions. Students need to know where to go, not here, there, or here. They need to go here. When in doubt, go here. And that should have reliable, accurate, current information. And everything else should be triaged from there. So the link to this online class that we're having, it's in the classroom online. If we need to do a Flipgrid video classroom, it's in the link online. If there is something else that we're doing, if you have access to connect, it's inside. Everything is there. That way, they don't have it in 25 different places. You're teaching them how to organize. You're teaching them to live in an organized space, and they will have the access from there. My experience has been that at the beginning of a semester or the end of semester, a lot of students have so many questions, and the questions are the same semester after semester. So I started to do my own Q&A inside my classroom. And so when students asked me the question, I would respond inside the classroom. And what that did, it gave me a huge database of answers to questions that students began to check, and then they would say, I found the answer in the Q&A. So I don't need to ask you anymore. And they started to refer others to that. That's a really great resource. And one thing that I did was at the end of my Q&A slot, I put a link to the institution's Q&A page. For those questions that are outside of the scope of my course, they could go to that and find out other things that are related to the institution. Because they're not on campus now, things like this, which we could ordinarily glaze over, become a little bit more important. We become sort of the hub for triaging them to the resources around campus, which are in disparate places. And so our role has been morphed, and I think we can step up to it. These are little things that help the students and help us. Multiple means, as we talked about. It's providing those examples, those exemplars, those samples, if you will, providing them peer group support. Some of them are shy and they're not going to reach out and connect with anyone, and they're home by themselves or somewhere by themselves. But if we designate learning partners or peer groups for working together offline, they'll have that support, and it's going to be quite beneficial. If you imagine a mother of 3 home at this time, this is class time, the children are crying, they're hungry, she cannot connect to the class. But when we're done, if we send the presentation and some notes for her, when she puts the children to bed at night, she could actually come on and go right through that and ask a few questions and still get the learning that's required. We have to be thinking about balancing synchronous and asynchronous methods, using different strategies to support our students. And so video conferencing is really what's new to this. You've always kept an online classroom and use a number of different resources. We've just added the video conferencing. It's not new for everyone. The fact that it is the only approach we are using now is what is new about it. The biggest issues that I have seen with video conferencing are based on your settings. Like, we're not selecting the right settings. So get familiar with your settings. Whether you're allowing reactions, whether you're allowing participants to talk to each other, whether you're allowing video, audio, waiting rooms or not, these are all within the context of your settings. Figuring out how you're going to manage the students, whether you're going to play a video during the presentation, I don't recommend, or send the video to the students before and say, watch this video in preparation for the class. That's the approach I recommend. Know the technology that you're dealing with. In the next series that McGraw-Hill offers, the June 10th series will cover useful digital tools and best practices for remote learning. So anyone who needs additional support on those skills, please join that session. One pro tip for you: join or create a community of practice for teaching technology. If you are familiar, you're still going to benefit. I am part of one, and there are lots of people in that group that are not even very strong, and I'm still learning from them. They're learning things that I never thought about, is filling in the gaps in my learning. Confidence comes with practice. This technology is shifting, and it is shifting quickly. The applications are being updated on an ongoing basis. You'll need to keep pace. You have to collaborate to learn. You can't learn all of this by yourself. We put all of our heads together and we learn together, and we're going to be better in that way. Because we're going to need to be good at this technology in order to engage our students. And engagement is everything. Not every student that's logged in is plugged in. And it's our goal to make sure that everyone who logs in, we can find strategies to plug them in. And remember, multiple means of access, multiple ways in which they engage. Learners differ by motivation, by engagement. And so one strategy is to ensure that you're demonstrating your own engagement. Demonstrate your own engagement and provide multiple ways for them to engage. Monitor engagement, measure engagement, communicate engagement freely. Never expect what you do not inspect, right? Multiple means, knowing that some like to talk, some like to text. Some like the small group, some like the large group. Some like collaborative learning, some like independent learning. Some like to follow the lesson plan structure to the T, and others prefer to go off track from time to time. Some like short breaks, some want to focus and get it done. How do you address all of this? I am not sure. But it's really good to know that this exists, and it's good to poll your students and see, who do I have here? What do they want? And see how best can I work to suit their needs. I want to flag up just before we go to the last section, that language is an important tool of engagement. I'm going to repeat that. Language is a very, very important tool of engagement. When you say to your student, I missed you in class yesterday, that's very different from you missed class yesterday. You're conveying two different things. Students want to know you care. When they know that you're noticing them, when they know that you're expecting them and you care whether they show up or not, and you're missing them when they're not there, that's a really big deal. They care about it and they show up for you. Sometimes for you, not even for themselves yet. They show up for you until they learn to show up for themselves. And so this is very, very important that we use the language that helps. And so we'll need to find strategies. In their homes, they have Netflix, they have all of these streaming, they have lots of things to do online, okay? And lots of things to do online. So we have to find strategies to distract them away from all of that. Distract them away from the conversations, distract them away from their show, distract them away from everything that's going on so they can come back to us online. And it's different strategies, sharing the highlights of our class this week, all the wonderful things that happened, and they can't afford to miss that going forward. That's going to be really important. Making sure we're keeping them updated on their grades and the feedback, the constructive feedback, providing them opportunities to connect with each other is going to be important. And we're going to do everything that we can to keep them engaged. But even so, if a baby's crying for attention, you lose. What you see or can't see behind them is what's in front of them. And we have to be mindful of that. Always. And that's why multiple ways of engaging them. And we don't get to choose their style of engagement. We get to provide adequate resources in different ways so that everyone can select their style to be engaged. And our responsibility then is to measure, monitor, and assess that engagement. Give your eyes a final break. We're going to go to our final segment on product. In a nutshell, our product is what we deliver. And when we're thinking about delivering the product, some of the skills that are in focus are confidence, professionalism, ownership, and in this particular context, digital fluency. In a way, the product is a very large word in education. The product is so monstrous. But I've put 5 pieces here that are helpful for us. The impact that the partnership that we construct, the ways we use the institution, the impact that together we have on their lives is one of the part of the product. The skills they develop, the meaningful lessons they learn, the valued connections. And I'm so sorry I couldn't put that in red for you. The valued connections, so critical. And readiness for their next steps. Whether it's the next course, whether it's the career, whether it's graduation, whether it's going off on a project somewhere, whatever they came here to get ready for, our product is readiness for that. And so we had to engage our students in exploring and learning new digital tools as part of the process. Some may be experts and can teach us some tricks. We may be pointing them to things that they go and learn and come back and teach us. The idea, though, is that ultimately our students and us will develop and must develop a range of skills, not just the digital ones, but the ones that support the development of the digital skills as well, and the ones that the digital skills in turn supports the development of. All of these skills will not only benefit us in our transition to online learning, but we're also going to be working on transitioning to a new world order post-COVID, where digital fluency will no longer be an option. And so ownership is going to be critical. It's always been critical, really. It's been critical for us and it's been critical for our students. But when we go online, it becomes critical underscored. Ownership of learning means that you are motivated, engaged, and self-directed. And we've talked about motivated, we've talked about engaged. Sometimes motivation and engagement can be very challenging. These are times when it's really challenging. These are tough times. These are uncertain times. But it doesn't mean that they aren't important. They're still fundamental to achieving goals. And as we transition to online delivery methods, it becomes really, really critical. And I talked about the purpose earlier, and this is why the purpose is so important. Because when you lack purpose, it leads to lack of motivation, much easier. Virtual learning requires this autonomy and the motivation, that engagement, that sense of purpose drives that ownership. Participation in adult learning is voluntary, but ownership of the process is mandatory for success, especially in this context. And so what we want to make sure is that we as professionals are updating our quality improvement process, that we're consistently seeking feedback and logging what's working well, logging what needs improvement, figuring out how to fix the issues, utilizing our partnerships to do so, tracking engagement in our process. And remember, students now lack the ongoing contact and informal information exchange that they would have on campus. Added to their usual struggles is COVID. So we have to stay connected to them, to do our best to keep them connected and help them take ownership of their learning. But we also need to take time for our own reflection. Not only what you are offering to your students, but what you're offering to yourself. You can't give them anything if you don't have you. So you are really important in this process. We are going to give our students every single thing that they need to be successful. But we need to be here for us as well. And so, hello, Professor. You are the pro in the product. So I want you to bring your confidence online. Don't leave it in those classrooms on land. Include yourself in the offering. And don't let the tech block your skills. Confidence is a feeling of self-assurance, which results from your appreciation of your own abilities, your own qualities. Confidence is communicated in your welcoming style, in your effective management of the process, in your care and concern for others, in the compliments you share with others, in the quality of your guidance and mentorship, the coaching of the one-off student who needs that additional support, the way you open up and tell your stories, the way you engage with others' stories, the way you partner with other professionals, the way you focus on your learner's purpose, how you lead them to their goals, and how you pivot when necessary. Ultimately, your confidence is communicated by your ability to help them achieve their goals in your course and how you contribute to the other life goals that they have beyond passing your course. Don't let this new all virtual world block your confidence in what you are an expert in. You are here because you are already a pro. Pros plan, then they practice, 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 always. It's a lifelong thing. That's what gets us to pro. Every other pro in sports, in industry, in education, in entertainment, wherever there's a pro, there's a history of practicing, practicing, practicing. This is a new context for us, and it's no different. We will rise to this challenge. We will grow and get better as a result. And we will do that together. And that's why I recommend those communities of practice where we as professionals can come and practice, share ideas on moving forward with the technology. In your next session, review the key things you want to add to your toolbox. Brush up that key thing you want to improve. I hope you took one thing from this presentation that you can take and move forward. Then step up to your desk next time, look into your camera, make eye contact with your learners, be confident because you've got what to be confident for, be engaging because engagement inspires engagement, and be the pro that you already are. Welcome to the new normal. It's here to stay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, everyone. So we are getting to the end of today's webinar. So throughout the webinar, I've received a lot of brilliant questions and comments from you. We've captured all the questions and we'll share the answer with you in a follow-up email along with webinar recording and post-survey link. So before you go, I would like to remind that, next slide, please. All right. So before you go, I'd like to remind you that McGraw-Hill is here for you. So please reach out to us if you need any help with transitioning your course online. Also, we have wonderful webinar sessions lined up for you, covering digital tools for your remote teaching and academic integrity and some discipline-specific topics. So please visit us at COVID-19 response landing page on mheducation.ca. Okay, I'll wrap up today's webinar now. So hope to see you at the next webinar. So have a wonderful weekend and thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you.